I'm Doug Jessup.
And I'm Nisha Nagaring, and welcome to Family Heritage Stories, where we talk about what makes us, things like traditions, values, and culture.
How are these things passed down from generation to generation? Through deeds, through words, and through stories. What does a hero mean to you? To me, it's ordinary people doing extraordinary things. It's time for Hero Salute Stories. I understand that you are from, what, is it the Dominican Republic?
Dominican Republic, that's right.
So how old were you then?
I was 13 when I came to the U.S. In '95.
So where'd you end up going to school as a kid?
East High School. And the school was all English. I wasn't still. So I was in Mrs. Emery's class, who was a math teacher then, Rosemary Emery, and who became a lifelong mentor. And you know, I think someone who truly changed much of the course of my life. She got me interested in AP Biology, in AP Chemistry, AP US History, which I truly loved, and it just got me to a place that I don't think I could have gotten otherwise, and I think it changed my life. Towards the end of my time there, I joined the U.S. Army, and this was a conversation we had, and I said, well, what about, I'm basically living alone now, and what if I join the U.S. Army? She says, all right, go ahead and try it. And I remember going off to training, coming back, and thinking, okay, I'm definitely going to college. So she says, look, what you want to do is just drive down to Westminster College and sign up and tell them that you want to start school next semester. They have this open enrollment thing. And I said, sure, you've been right about most of everything else. So she wrote a recommendation letter for me on the spot. I drive down to Westminster, and again, it's just one of these moments that changed everything. Because what they were able to do was to put me immediately into a program. They itemized for me on one single piece of paper all the, how I was going to pay for things, where I was going to live, what kind of classes I needed to take. And so for the next 2.5 years, I had a military deployment in between, but that's where that was home. I discovered that I had a talent for corporate law. Particularly corporate litigation, post-college and at the University of Utah's law school. So I went to the University of Utah to the S.J. Quinney College of Law. And after your first year, they do this process where law firms come on campus and interview students and then select students for their second summer at the school to work full-time at the law firm. It's a kind of paid internship.
Okay.
A friend of mine convinced me to apply. And, and when I say convinced me, he really just kind of coached me into it. But again, I just didn't know that was, a viability. And I thought, frankly, it sounded boring to be doing just commercial transactions and that sort of thing. So I applied and I wrote this really funny cover letter. It turns out that the jobs that those firms were offering were the most lucrative jobs that you could possibly get out of law school. And there was intense competition for it. Typically these jobs go to the top 10, 20% of the class. And I was flirting with those numbers, but not quite there. So I submitted it, and then I started doing these interviews, and I ended up with several callbacks, and I go back downtown and I start seeing these places, and I start getting exposure to them. And then I remember it vividly. A Friday, I start getting emails and letters back, and I opened the first of these offers from a firm that was in Milwaukee, a national firm, and it says, "Congratulations. we would love to have you come back as a summer associate. Your salary will be $1,700 a week. And at that moment, I remember it so vividly. I just kind of just dropped everything and fall apart. And what hit me is that that salary was twice what my mother was making in 1 year at that moment in Dominican Republic.
Wow.
So what happened then was that not just my life, but my entire family's life had changed. We are very communal.
I'm General Max Stitzer. I want to share with you the great honor that I've had to be associated with Doug Jessup, the Fedora Foundation, and Family Heritage Stories. It is so vital and essential that we remember, that we preserve, and that we teach our heritage and history. This program and the work that Doug and Fedora Foundation do is so vitally essential to remembering the heroes of this nation. They come in many forms. Some serve in uniform, and all across the different career fields and pursuits in life. We're surrounded by heroes. Well, one day, their time on this earth will pass. They must always be remembered and thanked for what they've done to give us the way of life that we have, to preserve what matters to us as a nation, as a people, as communities. It is so vital that we recognize and remember greatness and service in those who have served.
Hi, my name is Esther Blakely, and you are watching Family Heritage Stories.
There is something so special about the bond between a grandchild and grandparent. So how would you answer the question? Tell me about your grandma or grandpa.
I grew up in Cuautla, Morelos. I'm from Cuautla, Morelos. And my grandma born in Guerrero, Tepe. It's in Mexico. Okay, my favorite story of my grandma. Actually, I grew up with my grandma. And the best time ever is when my mom had to take care of my sister because when she born with Down syndrome. And so my mom, she's very busy. And so she said, okay, it's time to go with your grandma. And I called my grandma Abby. And I said, okay, yeah. So she always take care of me. And the best part with her is when I spend the time with her. She cooks very delicious, was my favorite part. And she take care of me with love, a lot of love.
Have you ever wondered how an object becomes important enough to be passed down from generation to generation? Well, a little bit later in the show, we share one of our viewers' treasures remembered.
You're watching Family Heritage Stories with me and my grandpa. We'll be right back.
Me gusta tu vestido.
Dime más.
Tus manos parecen muy suaves.
¡Dime más!
Tu pelo es perfecto para la forma de tu cara.
¡Dime
Family Heritage Stories features examples of stories from the past to help shape the future.
If you would like help saving your stories with a private interview, contact Krista at fedorafoundation.org for pricing and availability. There are reasons why people celebrate things like Swiss days or Day of the Dead. It's about one word: culture.
Welcome to Zihuatanejo, Mexico. It's the Siwa Iguana. The Siwa Iguana. Get it? Get it? Zihuatanejo is a fishing town right next to Ixtapa on the coast of Guerrero, Ixtapa being the resort town and Zihuatanejo being the more local town where you'll get more of that authentic Mexican community. This is the place to be if you want more of a Mexican experience. Honestly, I think it's got to be one of the most charming beach towns we've seen yet.
And it's easily one of the towns where you can find the freshest, most delicious fish here in Mexico.
In this video, we're going to be showing you around the town of Zihuatanejo, as well as making suggestions of where to stay and where to eat.
So we stayed in the local neighborhood of La Noria, and we really enjoyed our stay here because it's a 10-minute walk to Centro, and it's about a 5 to 6 minute walk to the dock where you can take a boat to Ixtla Ixtapa, you could take a boat to Las Gatas, and different places around the area. Get tickets to go to Playa Las Gatas, also to go to Ixtla Ixtapa. It's 80 pesos a round trip to both places, but to go to Ixtla Ixtapa, it's an hour-and-a-half boat ride, while Las Gatas is probably 10 minutes or so.
Yep, so now we just walk this way and head over to the boats. We're gonna see where the wind takes us, literally. We're gonna hop into a boat and see what we do. We're getting a nice tour of the bay from Bernardo over here. Gracias, Bernardo. The name Zihuatanejo comes from the Nahuatl word Cihuatlan, which means the land of women. And the name actually comes from a pretty cool story that involves a native king and his many wives. The king was known as Calzoncin, and he was known to visit this area on vacation frequently with his many wives, with his helpers and guards, with the women largely outnumbering the men. So this very likely means that Zihuatanejo may have just been Mexico's very first beach town destination, at least in the pre-Hispanic era.
With the storms that happen, these currents look really scary. Perfect for a surfer.
I love the fruit decorations throughout Zihuatanejo. You've got this tree here by the dock that's got all kinds of fruits hanging off of it, like a real tree, duh. And then there are decorations of fruit all throughout the city to remind you to enjoy Zihuatanejo, disfruta Zihuatanejo. I love that. ¿Qué tal una piña para la niña? El señor Sandía les quiere desear un hermoso día. Mira este mango. Se ve bueno para chupar.
Thanks, babe.
No, not you. The mango.
Y el limón, pues nah, a mí no me gusta el limón.
Ay, Kevin, no seas mamón.
What do we do here?
And nothing rhymes with orange. Let's go.
So throughout the centro and the malecón, you'll notice that there are statues situated with women with different dresses. There are 7 statues which are representative of the 7 regions of here in Guerrero. They are Costa Chica, La Costa, Acapulco, Montañita. I wish I knew the rest. I'm missing like 2, 3 more.
I'm gonna guess she's the one that represents the region we're in right now, La Costa.
Objects with stories. Those are treasures remembered.
Hola, this is Doug Jessup. Today in Treasures Remembered, we're going to España with this guy, Dr. Micah Christensen. So, Micah, I mean, we've had some fun, and, you know, you always bring something different. You bring all kinds of interesting stuff. And, you know, this obviously is Spanish, and it looks like it might be something that you'd find in the Prado. So, okay, teach me.
This is something you'd potentially find in the Prado or the Museum of Decorative Arts that's near the Prado, too. It is Spanish. It is about, it dates from the 1300s or the 14th century. And it was for the Spanish table in almost every home in Spain. That was middle class or above. I'm gonna make you guess a little bit here of what its function could be.
Okay, I am just totally okay. So you're gonna think this is weird, but could it be like basically a medieval spice rack?
It is a medieval spice.
Hey, I got it.
It's called an especiero, or a spicery, or you just called it a spice bowl, and it has 3 different places, one for each of the spices, and would be set on the table for use among the table guests. Now, spices were the currency of the Middle Ages.
Seriously expensive.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, they were very expensive, and in this would have been a high object that would have elevated these spices. You wouldn't have put your spices in anything typical, right?
Okay.
You would have had an object of art that they would have been put in, even in the most common home. So everyone would have agreed on 2 different spices that would have gone on.
Okay, I'm guessing one would be salt.
Salt, which is the cheapest of all the spices that's available.
Okay.
Well, because you've got to imagine you're surrounded by the ocean, and you can get it in lots of different ways. You can also mine it. There's a kind of salt that's that.
Now we're talking Spain. I'm totally guessing maybe some kind of chili or spicy type thing.
You'd think so, but those came later. Those came in the New World.
Okay.
So what you'd have in Spain is you'd probably have oregano, or you'd have thyme.
Okay.
But the most expensive spice that would have been on this table would have been peppercorns. And there's stories of people trading horses for a handful of peppercorns. So you would have had, you can see these are not generous quantity.
Yes.
They're in here.
It's like, okay.
And that's exactly what would have happened, is you would have had just a little bit and you would have sprinkled it on your food. So this piece is directly tied to the history of Europe and exploration. Spain in the 700s was invaded by by Muslims from North Africa. Okay. And they took over huge portions of the South and Central Spain. And this is made in Talavera, which this is a distinct style. These florid and scroll works, these kinds of box-like tile mimic shapes. This is specific, and the overall triangle shape, to the kind of thing that was made by Muslim pottery workers working in Spain in the 14th and 15th centuries. They are making, for all of the trade routes that are coming through and bringing spices, objects that are used to store and to exhibit these spices. You have to imagine that this is a huge reason why the exploration is happening in the first place, and why America is discovered by Europeans, is because they're trying to fill a little spice racks that they have on their kitchen tables that are made by the mudejares that are living in Spain after hundreds of years, who have brought with them not just the spices and the taste for spice, but they've also brought with them the technology that the Europeans don't have of making pottery at this level. This is very high technology. This would have had to be fired to be made between 1900 and 2100 degrees Celsius, which would have required coal mining. It would have required the refinement of the clay. It would have required the cobalt, which was brought from Persia, that is on this. This is an international piece made with international skill to feature international tastes in food that is the culinary history of Europe that we're the inheritors of today.
Makes you admire and I guess want to appreciate your own spice rack, but maybe not as expensive. Everyone has a story. Objects with stories, especially ones that Micah brings, those are treasures remembered. We'll be right back.
This is
Sandy, welcome to Easy Cooking. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make another Mexican dish. I'm going to be showing you how to make fried gorditas. These are very different from flour gorditas, and they are also slightly different from corn gorditas, so hopefully you will like them. These are my favorite, so I really recommend them to you. The preparation time is going to be about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we have to fry each gordita for about 2 minutes. So I hope you enjoy this video. Let's get started.
For this recipe we need 2.5 cups of maseca or corn flour, 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, vegetable oil for frying, and about 1.5 cups of water. Let's get started. In a large bowl, combine the corn flour with the all-purpose flour, the baking powder, and the salt. Mix well until combined, and then we're going to add in the water. We will start by adding 1 cup of water. Stir well until the flour has absorbed all the liquid. And now we're going to add in another 1/2 cup of water. And we're going to knead the dough with our hands. It's important that you use your hands to knead the dough so you can feel the consistency of the dough. You want it to be soft and kind of humid, but without being extremely wet or sticky. If you feel that your dough is too dry, feel free to add more water. I'm going to be adding 2 more tablespoons of water, and then I think that will be enough. If your dough is too wet, feel free to add more corn flour if necessary. Once the dough is ready, we will start making the gorditas. First, we're going to make small balls with the dough. So grab about 2 or 2.5 tablespoons of the dough and roll it with your hands into a ball. In this cup, I have a little bit of water, and I'm going to be dipping my fingers right in the water before rolling the dough into small balls, just to keep the dough nice and moist while I roll it with my hands. And we will just keep on making the small balls with the dough until we're done. This amount of dough will be enough to make 12 gorditas. So once you're done, now we're going to roll out or press down the balls to make the gorditas. We're going to roll them out or flatten them up until you get a thickness of 1/8 of an inch. You want them to be slightly thicker than a tortilla, not too thick at all, because if they are too thick, they won't puff up when you fry them. And you can roll them out with a rolling pin, or you can flatten them up with a tortilla presser. So I preheated my oil to a temperature of 325 degrees Fahrenheit, and now I'm going to fry my gorditas. These are really fast. They will cook in about 40 to 45 seconds on each side. And then let them cool a little bit. You don't want them to cool down completely. So just let them rest for about 30 seconds to a minute, and then grab a knife, and now we're going to slice them open. You want them to look kind of like a pocket because we're going to fill them up with delicious food. You can fill your gorditas with whatever filling you like. I have some leftovers, so I'm going to be using those. These 2 are for me. I'm stuffing them with refried beans and pork in poblano sauce. And the second one is beans with ground meat in guajillo sauce. And these 2 are for my husband. I'm also using the ground meat in guajillo sauce and the other one with chicken tinga. And I'm serving my gorditas with a very simple salad. It has romaine lettuce, tomatoes, red onions, and queso fresco. Don't forget to serve them with your favorite salsa, and that's it. Enjoy!
Everyone has a story.
And sometimes those stories are told through music.
Dicen que no comía, nomás se le iba en puro llorar. Dicen que no dormía, nomás se le iba en puro tomar. Cuentan que el mismo cielo se estremecía al oír su llanto. Como lloró por ella, que hasta en su muerte la fue llamando. Ay, 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 lloraba ay, 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 cantaba de pasión mortal. Que una paloma triste muy de mañana le iba a cantar a su casita sola con sus puertitas de par en par. Cuentan que esa paloma no es otra cosa más que su alma, que todavía la espera a que regrese la desdichada. Cocorro, cocó, paloma, cocorro, cocó, no llores, las piedras jamás, paloma, ¿qué van a saber? Paloma, ya no le llores.
Everyone has a story. Stories have power. They help us understand each other.
If you want help saving your family heritage stories with a private interview, contact Krista at fedorafoundation.org for pricing and availability. It's our honor to be able to help people remember where they came from.
If stories are not passed down from generation to generation, the stories are lost, and it's as though those people never existed.
So how do you want to be remembered? With another episode of Family Heritage Stories, I'm Nisha DeGaring.
And I'm Doug Jessup.
Dicen que no comía, nomás se le iba en puro llorar. Dicen que no dormía, nomás se le iba en puro tomar. Cuentan que el mismo cielo